So welcome back to day 2 of India Global Week and to our panel, building on what we heard just a few moments ago from Right Honourable Liz Truss, who's the UK International Trade Secretary. So this panel is going to examine a few important questions. How do we continue to build on what is already in existence on UK-India relations? And in the wake of COVID-19, the biggest challenge to the global economy since World War II, how do we look at some quick wins? What is the way to get the momentum going, if it's paused at all? And is a trade deal in sight? So with me today on the panel, I'm delighted that Liz Truss, the UK International Trade Secretary, is back with us. We've also got Gaitri Kumar, the High Commissioner of India to London, Alderman William Russell, the Lord Mayor of the City of London, Mohit Joshi, the President of Infosys, Richard Heald, the Group CEO of the UK-India Business Council. So I'm going to start this question off by first asking a question to the High Commissioner. High Commissioner, building on what we heard there from the UK International Trade Secretary, from Liz Truss, can you tell me a little bit about your perspective on where UK-India relations are and what you're looking for next? So hoping to get a discussion going with Gaitri Kumar, the High Commissioner of India to London. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Great. I can't actually hear you, but I'm going to ask you that question, and hopefully the audience can hear you. We'd love to hear your perspective on where UK-India relations are and what you are looking for to build on next.
Thank you. I really value this opportunity, especially of meeting Her Excellency, the Secretary of State for Trade, and the other distinguished panelists. I think this is an opportunity which is, and the timing of this conversation is so appropriate, because the whole world is now looking at a very new set of geopolitics. There is the post-COVID recovery and revival agenda. We have Brexit. We also have a number of countries in Europe looking at reshoring after offshoring a lot of their manufacturing. So this, of course, throws up a number of challenges, this situation, the present world circumstances, but also a number of exciting new opportunities. And yesterday, our Honorable Prime Minister spoke about these. He mentioned specifically the talent of Indians and our interest in really working with the rest of the world on developing advanced technology and joining research and taking things forward on that front. So a very clear roadmap needs to be made, I feel. Having just arrived here, this is my priority. Identifying the convergences, reassessing priorities possibly, and then just seeing how we should address the unprecedented circumstances together and go forward towards economic recovery. In the India-UK context, we have excellent institutional mechanisms like the JETCO and the EFD, which involve a robust government-to-government and business-to-business engagement. But I think one of our greatest strengths is the living bridge of Indians and persons of Indian origin, and then, of course, the UK investors in India, more than 600 companies, and of course a very strong UK IBC. I'm so happy to see Mr. Heald over here, and also to say that this is, our diaspora of 1.6 million seems to be just catalyzing every sector. So there's so much to look forward to there.
Thank you.
If I may continue for a minute.
Sure.
Sorry, I'll come back later.
No, please continue.
Well, I thought that I would just quickly say that, some of the quick wins that one could focus on, or, we of course have had a conversation between our two prime ministers, and they've identified some priorities. But obviously, the main priority, the first priority is health. Healthcare. In the short time available, I'd just like to quickly mention about Gavi. We, of course, India is proud to be a partner there. And like the rest of the world, we wish for the success of Oxford and the Serum Institute of India, because that promises affordable and global access to the vaccine. And also this more such initiatives are crucial, because we have to have greater preparedness for future health emergencies if they should come up. And so India's talent and other USP should be utilized. We also would be a very good player in research, a good partner there. The other area I wanted to mention was climate change, where the UK, in its presidency of COP26, can absolutely count on India. We have noted and lauded your commitments and your initiatives for net zero emissions by 2050. And we welcome the UK as a partner in the International Solar Alliance. We hope to welcome you in the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. There's a lot of business in there for both sides, for everybody, and a very, very win-win kind of a situation there. Today, our Prime Minister would launch, or probably has launched by now, a 750 kilowatt solar project in Madhya Pradesh, with 3 solar generating units of 250 megawatts each, and that will feed the Delhi Metro. So a state far away in central India will be, providing electricity for the Delhi Metro, and it's expected to reduce carbon emissions to the extent of 1.5 million tons a year. So that's a very good. And then another initiative is solar bonds, and then Commonwealth Solar Investment Platform. So these are, the objective is to enhance energy access and energy transition. Obviously, we'll focus on our synergies. The other one is, of course, where IT comes in, which I would leave to Mr. Joshi. But I think UK, leads in innovation and in design, and we have, we can complement that. So, as I mentioned earlier, design in UK, manufacture in India, and export to the world. That is what our Commerce Minister has made as a slogan. And lastly, we're also talking about a trade deal. And that again, the joint trade review of both countries has identified 5 pillars. That is life sciences, ICT, food and drink, chemicals and services. It'll be our job to work for the right conditions and the right terms to make this very, very viable. So FinTech is another area, and I must compliment His Excellency the Lord Mayor for his contribution in this area very proactively. We think that these are areas, especially with UK's regulatory framework and innovations like sandboxes, catapults, and accelerators, which I'm learning about. You'll find a very good partner in India. And with these words, I'd like to hear the rest of the panelists. And I'd just like to say that as the new person here in the mission, in the High Commission of India, I stand ready to work with all of you for a very, very good partnership in the days ahead. Thank you so much.
Well, we'd like to welcome you to the UK as well. You are very, very welcome. Let's go to the Lord Mayor for a moment, because I would like to hear about the collaboration in financial services, and specifically the importance of FinTech.
Can you hear me? Perfect.
Yes.
So thank you for that, and I'd like to welcome High Commissioner Kumar. Welcome to London, and I look forward to welcoming you at the Mansion House. Yes, fintech is a very big area for the UK, and a lot of people think it's just around London. It's actually around the whole of the UK and employs over 76,500 people. We think we'll get to 100,000 people by 2030. But the relationship with India is a very close one, and a lot of it, as the High Commissioner pointed out, is really centered around regulation and the regulatory environment that we've created. In London, we've tried to establish around the world. And the interim CEO of the FCA, Chris Willard, I remember him very well saying about 3 or 4 years ago when we hosted a whole lot of regulators in London at the Old Bailey when I was sheriff of the city, said it's really important we have a good regulation around the world so we're all at the top of the barrel and not at the bottom of the barrel. And I just thought that was something that was very true, and it's where we've been heading towards. And so the fintech side is something that we are very excited about, and where we are working very closely with India as a partnership. And that includes cyber, includes the insurtech, and to be frank, it rolls over into the green agenda, which you mentioned, High Commissioner. I think that's also very exciting. The governor of the bank, the past governor of the Bank of England, and myself announced the Green Horizon Summit that will take place in November at the Mansion House. And that's going to be focused very much around the profile of finance and what finance can do with the green agenda. And one of the things I've learned in all the calls I've been doing in the last 3 months, bar none, everyone has brought the green agenda up. And COVID-19 has really focused our attention on that. I remember reading an article about 2 or 3 months ago now. It seems, it wasn't that long ago really, but in the FT from somebody from a big private equity firm who said, we didn't listen to the scientists around the pandemic. Let's make sure we listen to the scientists around climate change. And it has focused people's minds. And I feel that there's a huge momentum. And in a way, having COP26 move to November 21 gives us even more time to get it absolutely right, and it's going to be exciting, and it's good to hear that that our friends in India are very much on board around the green agenda. Thank you.
I might just give a chance for Liz Truss to comment on some of the things that she's heard about from the panel. We know that a comprehensive trade deal is still a long time away. Could you tell us a little bit more along this idea of the UK investment manufacturing assembly in India?
Well, what we're going to be doing at the JetCo, the virtual JetCo that we are doing over the next few weeks with Indian ministers, is laying out a pathway for a deepening trade relationship and making sure we've got that framework in place. And of course, the first step on that is looking at how we remove some of the barriers that are there to existing trade, particularly in areas like services. We've discussed financial service, but there are also opportunity in legal services. Areas like food and drink is very important, life sciences, and also the technology industry. And I think those are areas where we can work much more closely together as nations, and where there are large opportunities. And I think by making progress on removing some of those regulatory barriers, will be easier to look at that pathway towards a future free trade agreement. In terms of the precise makeup of manufacturing and services, I think what we're seeing in the modern economy is more of an integration between the different stages, and it's becoming harder and harder to distinguish between services and goods trade. And one of the reasons that we are seeing more onshoring of manufacturing across the world is because of advances in technology, lower labor costs. And I think that what we need to make sure is that the agreements that we reach allow the flexibility for those developments to take place. And one of the reasons that we're very excited about working more closely with India is we want to diversify our trade. We want a wider range of trade partners. We also want to work with like-minded countries that share the same values. And we are looking at, as the UK, at some of our critical supply chains through a project called Project Defend. And that is all about making sure that we are not just producing, understanding our supply chains at home, but also working with allies to make sure that we have confidence in those supply chains and we have multiple sources of supply. And I think that's a very interesting area for us to work more closely with India on.
So, Mohit, let's come to you now to explore this idea of technology. And specifically, I'm interested in COVID-19 has brought to all of our attention how much our lives have been fast-forwarded a few years into the future. I wonder if you can tell us some of the things that you've noticed recently about the technology exchange between the UK and India, and really what excites you about looking forward for the next few months.
Well, thank you. I think if there's one thing that the pandemic has taught us, it is how closely the world is integrated, right? The sort of globally synchronized lockdown, I think, caught everybody by surprise. But even in this, the fact that we have survived and in some measure actually thrived in the crisis has been because of technology. If you were to go back even a year ago and talk about a globally synchronized lockdown that extended for 4 months, right? We wouldn't be worried about so much about unemployment and about access to broadband. We'd be worried about food, water, and electricity, right? The fact that the world at large has managed to come out reasonably well out of this crisis is a testament to how deeply technology has been woven into the thread of every possible business. And when we speak to business leaders and to governments across the world, it is very clear that there is a desire to double down on technology from a resilience perspective, but also as a key enabler in almost every industry, right? I think the High Commissioner spoke about, and the Lord Mayor spoke about the green agenda, for instance. It is very hard to imagine how the green agenda can be met without a deep reliance on technology. The huge amounts of data, for instance, that will need to be collected for stress tests of banks and to see if their portfolios can indeed meet the Paris agreements will require technology. In the green agenda, many private companies have taken the lead in setting standards for themselves. For instance, Infosys, we as a company have signed up to being carbon neutral by 2040. That is 10 good years before the 2050 pledge. If you look at areas like FinTech, for instance, the role of technology in building a global financial services marketplace is very clear. For instance, I know that there are a number of London-based companies and Mumbai-based companies that are working to open up the global equity markets to Indian investors. If we look at design, and there was a lot of discussion about design and the role it plays. Design is crucial, right? Because now, especially with every business being a digital business, the need to have a better experience for customers, the need to have a better experience for employees is imperative. And again, as the High Commissioner pointed out, this is an area where the UK has centuries of talent and tradition to draw on. We, for instance, built out a 400-person design studio in Shoreditch just about 9 months ago. And it was a very opportune time because we see whether it is for industrial goods or whether it is for digital experiences, the importance of physical design and digital design is really, really critical. And finally, because as the world comes out of the crisis, there will need to be a focus on productivity and efficiency as well. A lot of the investments that have gone into the cloud, a lot of investments that have gone into automation and AI will be critical, because if we have to imagine a world post the pandemic, it is not possible to do so without the efficient use of technology across industries. One final point, even sectors which have traditionally been seen as less technology intensive, like pharma, for instance, are embracing technology like never before. If you speak to almost every pharma company in the world, the hottest thing today is virtual clinical trials. It is impossible to corral the thousands or the hundreds of thousands of people you need to do a phase 2 or a phase 3 clinical trial. But with virtual clinical trials, you can accomplish a lot more using a much smaller sample. So again, in a nutshell, we see huge opportunities emerging for for both the economies. I think both the UK and India have been at the forefront of design, programming, the use of automation and AI, and this is really an opportunity to double down across sectors in both the countries.
Fascinating what you were just saying there about the virtual clinical trials. Richard, let's come to you now just to talk a little bit, because you're very involved in this JETCO meeting, the Joint Economic Trade Committee, because you run the organization, which is the UK Secretariat. So I wonder if you could speak about how you feel about the potential outcomes. And I'm really interested in your thoughts on the digital opportunities that Mohit was speaking about, and especially within the medical technology area.
Sorry, the what technology area? I didn't quite
the medical
catch
technology area.
Medical. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I have to say, I'll start off by complimenting both the Secretary of State and also Minister Piyush Goyal for actually convening the JETCO, which is an important event, but convening it in this period. And I think that sends a very powerful message as far as both UK and Indian business is concerned, that collaboration between governments is ongoing, even though the circumstances may be difficult. Clearly, JETCO is a governmental bilateral. There will be focus, as the Secretary of State said, on food and beverage, and also on digital and IT, and those are obviously key areas for collaboration. I think JETCO is part and parcel of a series of steps of bilateral at government level, and it follows on from the meeting that took place in July of last year. And this sort of consistency of dialogue is important. And believe me, there is an awful lot of conversations that go on between the Department of International Trade and also with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in India throughout that year. So this is a process, but it's a very important part of that process. And it gives a lot of confidence to business, both from the UK and from India, that there is focus on areas such as the Secretary of State said, on ease of doing business, and how can India and the UK leverage off the investments that have been made by industry in each other's countries. So, for instance, the UK benefits from very significant elements of FDI coming in from India, and India benefits from very significant levels of FDI that go from the UK. So in the context of what I would quite excited by, in the context of Prime Minister Modi's self-reliant mission, then you look at who is embedded within the systems that can actually manufacture, produce, and take forward. And I think the UK is in a very good position to exploit that. And I'm really hoping that is, if you like, one of the outcomes that comes out of the JETCO, which the Secretary of State will be co-chairing. As far as technology is concerned, I mean, I think I agree with what Mohit said, which is, COVID-19 has actually demonstrated what is possible in the face of necessity. And if you look at the work and collaborations that are going on as between companies in the UK and major manufacturing, vaccine and drug manufacturing industries within India. That is something that we have been very, very quick, both India and the UK, to exploit. And that is, I really do believe, a cornerstone of collaboration going forward. There will be further opportunities coming out in areas of greater, primary healthcare level, like, digital diagnostics and or injectables. These are areas where, as we go forward and we have to address in a post-COVID environment the needs of society, and also potentially a second spike in COVID, these are systems and technologies that we need to develop in order to cope with that future developments. Thank you.
Thank you. High Commissioner, can I come back to you to reflect on some of the things that you've heard from the panelists, what you've heard especially on technology and thinking towards this upcoming digital JETCO as well?
May I first of all welcome wholeheartedly what Madam Secretary of State mentioned, her remarks that we should focus on a roadmap that identifies the priorities, builds on the convergences. I think all this augurs very well, especially it indicates to me as the person over here in London, how I should start working with her team, hit the ground running. And I'm going to straight away after this session start working with our Ministry of Commerce in Delhi. I think we'll prepare for the next JETCO meeting, which may be a virtual meeting. Our Commerce Minister has requested that it should be as soon as possible. So maybe later this month, maybe. So there's a lot to look forward to there. I'd also like to mention that in response to all the panelists who have spoken so far, Infosys, when I had a conversation with a colleague of Mr. Joshi the other day, he had mentioned very pertinent and relevant areas of interest. Of course, he mentioned, that the most promising areas were to work with the UK's education system, just as they are bringing in education reforms and initiatives with the NHS, then to help with a post-Brexit tax structure, create a kind of a software infrastructure that would be required at that stage possibly, and also acquisitions. These were the 4 areas mentioned by him, to which some of the government of representatives who I've spoken to so far really warmed to and responded very positively. So this is my initial reaction to some of the points mentioned, and I think this really picks up from what Mr. Heald mentioned and the Right Honourable Lord Mayor, because these really, and Prime Minister mentioned this yesterday about India's talent pool and our interest in working with the rest of the world on advanced technology. And we have a lot to give in a very cost viable framework. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mohit, let's continue just to respond to that issue about education and ed tech, if you like. You mentioned there that a lot of people, a lot of companies have been able to respond well and bounce back in the COVID due to technology, but we do know that there are a lot of people who have been left behind. In state schools alone in the United Kingdom, we know that there are a significant number of students who have not been able to log in during this digital learning revolution. And I know that personally, given that one of my children is in a state school, and I've spoken to the head teacher and she's worried. So I wonder if you can give us some hope and some thoughts on where educational technology and where Infosys or others might be able to help.
Sure. So look, I think this is really a pressing issue because most of the jobs that will exist in 2050 haven't even been thought of yet, right? So in that sense, the need to have a learning habit for life and the need for for individuals and for governments and for companies to reinforce this, right, that learning is a lifetime habit is very, very important. But obviously that is just a philosophical statement. The reality is that if we need to educate huge numbers of people, we cannot rely only on the physical infrastructure that we've created. I think the physical infrastructure is obviously important because that has been the traditional way of doing things. And in some sense, getting people to one common campus or getting people to one common school building has been the traditional way to educate people in cohorts. But increasingly, as we're seeing in medicine, right, we discussed medicine, as we see the importance of personalized medicine, so the importance of personalized learning is equally important. And digital platforms have been created which can educate people at scale. Again, without wanting to beat the drum about our own company and the work we've done at Infosys, we've created a digital platform called Wingspan, and there are over 1 million people in companies across the world that use it. And what it does is that when you come in, it understands your sort of background and educational profile. It understands adjacent areas where you can possibly learn new skills. It recommends a program of learning for you, which is bite-sized. So you don't need to learn for 3 hours a day. You can learn in 20-minute chunks. It tests how well you've learned the things that you've learned by providing a hands-on environment, for instance, for you to test out your learning. It builds out an ecosystem of learning so you can learn in cohorts. It gamifies the experience so you can figure out whether you're learning faster or slower than the rest of the group. And then it feeds back again into the system and it recommends new areas for you to learn. We built this initially for our team of software engineers because clearly in the technology field, skills grow stale very quickly. And so you really need to learn new skills. Earlier it was you needed to learn new skills every 10 years, then it was every 2 years, and now you need to learn new skills almost on a daily basis, right? And I would just emphasize that the convenience factor in learning is very important. If you can build a platform where people can learn on their spare time, so they can learn online or offline, if they can learn in small chunks, then people really want to learn. When we built out our platform, our hope was that 60% of our 250,000 employee base would use it for 20 minutes a day. In reality, the platform is so powerful that we find that over 80% of our employees use it for half an hour a day on weekdays and an hour on weekends. So the power of a digital learning platform is that if learning is available, if it's easy, if it's interesting, then people will learn. I think we don't have to push people to learn. They will be drawn to it. And the importance of building out a digital infrastructure for learning is therefore critical. Learning can be at multiple levels.
Right? You right there, because we are a little short of time. But I would love to bring back the rest of the panelists just for a few moments. Lord Mayor, can we come to you just to give you some reflections on some of the things you've heard about and perhaps give us an idea of some of the new neural pathways you've been able to build over the last few months as well?
Sure, very, very keen, particularly, as you know, as ambassador for the UK's financial services sector. I mean, Moshi, you talk about EdTech, and that's a natural way into FinTech away, with particularly around financial inclusion, and that's very much part of a similar process. But the three things I would sort of just end with, some of the three key trends coming up for India around financial services is capital. It's a huge demand for the country as ambitious infrastructure plans and recovery initiatives will require that liquidity, and I think that's very exciting. And then, as we talked about, fintech and edtech innovation, hugely abundant in India, and particularly with initiatives like Startup India fueling that growth and the financial inclusion through technology. Bringing people into the system still has a way to go. And hopefully we can help with that. And the third one, which I know I keep coming back to, but the phrase that the Secretary of State and government are using is Build Back Better. And I think that's going to be critical around the green agenda. And we're very keen to work from the City of London perspective on all these three initiatives. We have our Mumbai office, as many of you know, and they want to push further collaboration on the regulatory side, trade side, and investment side for both countries. And I think it's a very exciting future, particularly as Brexit, the deals happen. And I know the Secretary of State will work incredibly hard on some of these deals, and I've been part of some of the conversations. But I'm an optimist, and I'm very optimistic about the future for the UK, and particularly with our relationship with India. So exciting times ahead.
Thank you. I wonder if I could just come to Richard Heald as well, just to in these last few moments. We'll try to get to Liz Truss as well. So, Richard, tell me what you are really looking forward to in terms. I know that you have talked a lot about the importance of the collaboration within financial services. I know that you think that the comprehensive free trade agreement is a while away, but that's not the prize. So give us some insight on what you think is important to focus on in these next few months.
Thank you. I think that the key thing is to maintain a constructive dialogue. I mean, we've seen, as I said, tremendous collaboration between India and the UK in this COVID environment. We've seen it on the paracetamol issues. We've seen it with PPE. We've seen it in areas like repatriation flights, where there's been tremendous amount of work that's been done by the FCO and by India. And I think that, and you can put that in the context also of the conversations that are going to take place on JETCO. So there's a lot to be built there. And I think that is tremendously important. At the same time, we've seen businesses doing things irrespective or despite the COVID environment. There's been acquisitions of upstream technology, upstream design by Indian companies, in line very much with what the High Commissioner said. TVS Motor bought Norton motorcycles out of receivership specifically for the design experience that they have. We've obviously just at the weekend had that remarkable successful consortia bid for open web between Bharti and the UK government, focusing on improving accessibility via low-level satellite technology. So these are areas where collaboration is going on. And I think that the mood music, and I would agree absolutely with what the Lord Mayor says, is that the mood music at the moment, I think, is very positive. If you look at the level of collaboration that is going on, it's rather like an iceberg. You see one-tenth the surface above the water, but there is 9/10 that is going on below the surface, which is absolutely critical. So I absolutely share the sentiments of the panelists that the opportunity is very, very high.
Thank you. In 30 seconds or less, Trade Secretary, I wonder if you would just like to wrap us up with any final thoughts.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for hosting this really excellent panel session. I was delighted to hear the comments by the High Commissioner about the work that's going in advance of the JETCO, because I think that's incredibly important, that we make as much progress as we can in removing those barriers, but also setting ourselves on a path to longer term, deeper collaboration. I see huge opportunities for industries, whether it's food and drink, life sciences, or the many tech sectors we've talked about, from fintech to edtech to medtech. There's huge opportunity for further collaboration between our countries. And I just finally say that as Britain emerges as an independent trading nation, we do see India as an absolutely key partner, a partner that shares our values, that is committed to free and fair trade around the world. And we look very much forward to working more closely with India and building on that relationship over the coming months and years.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all of my panelists for a fantastic discussion today. If you want to stay with us, the audience, we will be coming to our next session in just a moment now.